Good morning, everybody. It is Jillian. So, yeah, it's pretty grim out there. It's very, very intense as far as the energy because we're in climate change. And with climate change comes so many things that are coming up for people. I don't care what it is. Anything that is bothering them, anything that is a trauma to them, anything that is also a cancer or a disease, or I would say cancer or disease because it's not cancer or disease until it comes up. So anything that was ever like hidden behind a remedy or a cure or surgery or any type of anything in the medical holistic system, well, that's going to break through at some point. And of course, it's different for everybody because everybody gets the different climate changes that go on because the weather always fluctuates. And it doesn't even matter who controls the weather when you think about it because it's irrelevant. You have no control. And so literally you have to then figure out how are you going to deal with the weather when it comes to you or if it's at your door today. And so, yeah. And so, but people are going to be seeing a lot of stuff come up and then they're going to be at the medical system trying everything they can to stuff the genie back in the bottle. They're going to be with their holistic remedies, stuffing the genie back in the bottle. They're going to be doing everything they can to stuff the genie back in the bottle. But I'm going to say that's not the point of this new world. That is not the point of this new world, is stuffing the genie back in the bottle. Now the genie's out of the bottle. And if you can't deal with the genie coming out of the bottle, then yeah, people are going to be doing everything they can to anesthetize themselves. And that's where a lot of the rest in peace comes from. And so it's interesting because my dog is going through definitely a series of memories and behaviors that are like what someone would think is like, oh, she's suffering. She's going back down to her fucking prototype. And I knew this because I know what's going on. I know what kind of programming we're under as far as biological. And it's not like it's a bad thing or it's a good thing. It's just what is. I mean, you could put any kind of morals or judgment against what you would think is programming. But in reality, that's what humans are. We all have been programmed. All of us. All of us. And so, now it's introducing the fact that yes, humans have been biologically programmed because that's what humans are. We are biological robots that have been given different emotions and then programmed with those emotions with our community. We've been given strengths, we've been given weaknesses, we've been given our culture. Even though maybe you come from South America or you come from England or you come from the UK, it's not like it's not like a contrived thing that there's like that there's an organic human. Yeah, humans have evolved. What does that mean? Once the Hydra figured out how to utilize its resources and develop a community, a colony, and gave each colony member its own job, and each colony member carried out their job, and if they couldn't and they were deteriorating, either they evolved or they were cast out, excommunicated from the colony. I mean, that's no different than what goes on today in families, in groups, in corporations, in any type of thing. And at this point, there really isn't anything you can do to stop that mentality that if your programming is not staying on point and and you have to kind of let it do what it has to do and evolve with the environment, then you're going to try everything you can to stay with the old programming. And that's really a trap. See, when I'm writing it, and I cut down so many pages of this book because it was like reinventing the wheel. We know we have intelligent design. We know this. Intelligent design is intelligent design. But the Hydra, they are the basis of everything. They are what made even the tardigrades. They are in the water sources. They are the energy. They are the point of thermodynamics. Okay? Energy can't be created or destroyed. Hydra cannot be created or destroyed. Energy can only be converted. Okay? Hydra can only be converted. during that conversion process, Hydra loses energy. Hydra loses Hydra. Okay? Which means that you have to gain that energy back, because when you're dealing with autophagy, which basically what the second law of thermodynamics is, it's autophagy. It's the deterioration, and then you have to build yourself up. But the system hasn't taught people to build themselves up, only based upon what the system wants you to build yourself up as. And if you can't handle what they're programming, then yeah, you're going to be cast out, which means that you won't be useful anymore. No different than way back in 60 million years ago when they were casting out little Hydra that couldn't handle their colony. And so the third law is that in a closed system, the entity will not be able to survive in a dynamic environment with a closed system. So that's thermodynamics. Entropy, closed system, and obviously nothing dies per se, but it goes down to the single-celled amoeba. And so when you're part of a group and you don't fit in with that group anymore, then you get cast out to a single cell or a single person, or you cast yourself out. Okay, so right now there are two choices in life. There are people who are casting themselves out of the system by seeding themselves into the afterlife, or there are people who are actually consciously taking themselves away from the system because they know that system now is not what it's purported to be in this environment. Because I'm telling you, my dog is going through her behavior changes, going through her layers of programming. It's down to her prototype. She looks like a tardigrade. She actually looks like a little freaking insect. And she's lapping up water left and right. She's eating her food, but she is also getting rid of that stuff that's coming out of her back end. It's the mucus. People are like, oh my God, that's so crazy. But yeah, that's what mucus builds you up, and mucus can tear you down. It just depends on how that mucus is controlled. So when you're blowing your nose, like I blew my nose and there was a little blood in it. Okay, yeah, there's some crazy shit in the atmosphere. But I'm not trying to stop the mucus from leaving. That's the issue, is that the system before, when it was a slower frequency, people stopped the mucus from leaving. What do? They take all their remedies. They take all their pills and powders. It was great back, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, maybe even 10 or 15. But today, taking all your remedies, guess what happens? You stuff the genie back in the bottle, that genie's going to cannibalize the shit out of you, and it is. People are rapidly aging. They are freaking screaming. They are being tortured, and then anything out there that triggers them and conflicts with what they think is right or whatever, they just go off the deep end. And I'm telling you, I had an energy harvest this weekend because I had to figure this out. I knew something to it. I knew you weren't going to read 40 pages of one section. I had this thing called mucus is the seed of life and seed of death. And I'm like, I can't write that. I can't fucking write that, because people are going to take that to a whole another level. And so, what I cut that down to was diversity. Diversity. What's my point with this diversity? I'm introducing a new way to be. Just like the LGBTQ can introduce, binary, non-binary, or transsexual, or all the different sexual orientations, I'm actually introducing another life form. It's called an open system. That's essentially what I've figured out from all of what I've been writing. What am I asking the world? For you to accept my lifestyle. No different than someone over there that wants to be a lesbian or a gay person, or a bisexual, or wants to be a man wearing women's clothing. I don't care. But now I'm asking for some tolerance for my fucking lifestyle. Because if you can use the word diversity for your specific political ideology, then I should have every right to develop and ask my government and everybody else are there to please give some tolerance, that maybe I don't want to kill my fucking dog with medication, that she's gonna have to figure out how to assimilate to this. And yeah, the conversion process is not fucking fun. Ask any transsexual or any transhumanist when they're going through their conversion process, whatever it is, through the hospital or through whatever, that it's painful. The people out there are totally, laughing at them, discriminating against them, saying whatever. And so then I'm like, wow, do I feel like there is some kind of kindred spirit with myself and the LGBTQ, because they have underwent so much ridicule, so much war against them. And I'm like, I know exactly what it feels like to be even a person of color in a predominantly, lily white community. Oh, of course, I'm Vietnamese, and I'm walking into an Orthodox temple. People are looking at us like, what the hell? And this is back in the 80s when my parents were trying to figure out which temple to go to. And we went to one temple, and they were very Orthodox, very Orthodox. And we were walking in there, and my mom's like, we can't belong to this community because they're looking at my kids like they're freaking crazy. So she had to go to a Reform temple. So we weren't completely being looked at like we're some weird little humans. I mean, we went to Puerto Rico. We were looked at kind of crazy because, Americans coming in there and back in the 80s, but two little Asian girls running around, because my dad was working on the water system out there. Okay, so discrimination does not discriminate, okay? It happens everywhere. And so when someone uses that term diversity and then they are like, well, I have my lifestyle and this, but your lifestyle fucking sucks. You have, and you're hurting yourself and you're diagnosable and that's exactly what the LGBT community underwent and suffered through back in the 70s when they were in the DSM, the diagnostics, whatever manual for maladies. And so that statue that I remember seeing on Facebook that was like a big dude and then the person was chiseling himself out of that statue of largeness. That's exactly what this book was. It was as big as the world. It had everything about science and biology. It was like I was reinventing the wheel. I was paraphrasing every single thing that every scientist ever said about this, and this. About Newton's law of motion and trying to prove that I know this, which of course I fucking know this. But proving, the laws of thermodynamics, the laws of biology, the laws of this, the laws of that, and theory of relativity. But that was just me studying. That was me proving that, yeah, I can actually be a self-study, a self-starter. That I don't have to have a professor or some administration come and tell me what I should be studying and how I should be, interpreting the information, the facts. And because facts can also be interpreted in so many ways. You may have a fact that this is a cell, but someone say, no, that's a bad cell. No, that's a good cell. And that's where all the religions and the politics and the scientific dogmas come from. That's what we're dealing with when you have 7.9 billion people who have a word for every single freaking noun that's out there. So you have a noun, again, like a cell, and you will have politics around that cell. You will have 50 people give their version of what that fucking cell is. And that's the Tower of Babel. That's the confusion. That's in a slower frequency environment. That's okay. That's diversity, right? In a high frequency environment, that's fucking war. That is war like you would not believe. And you're seeing it. It's such a war that even my account had to be scaled down because there was so much coming at me and there's so much going on. People are suffering, yes, because they are now realizing that everything they ever did in the medical holistic system was fine in that world, but now they have to change. And oh my God, do you think people want to change? They want to feel the stuff that they were pushing down a couple years ago? Absolutely not. So they're suffering in the hospital system, and then eventually it's going to have to be a rest in peace. Well, then I'm appealing to not only my community, but also to my government. Please have some tolerance for diversity, for an open system, because I really don't want to die. I don't want my dog to die. Well, I won't die from natural causes, but I don't want someone to go and take my dog and kill it with medicine, because that's exactly what goes on in this community when in this, society, is that we have then employed our friends and family to go and save people and save them to death, and then they say they saved them. So let's pretend someone does take my dog, like the ASPCA or whatever, right? Let's just pretend. I doubt it's going to happen. It won't. And then they take it and they pump her full of whatever it is, and then she passes away. Guess who they'll say? Well, you did that, Jillian. If you were brought her in sooner, she would have been fine. No, I'm sorry. No. Because if I would have brought her in sooner, they would have pumped her full of drugs. She would have blown up like a fucking balloon and would have died anyways. And then I'd have to start all over again to deprogram her from the medication. But that's exactly what the system wants. That's exactly what they want. They want you to first be dealing with people who are imposing their lifestyle. But they also want you to be so afraid to take your ass to the medical holistic system and they pump you full of whatever, and then, oh, sorry, we can't do anything more for you. Well, that was the fucking intention. But I'm not going to, I'm saying, when people are a closed system and they're getting pumped full of all the different remedies and And yes, therapies in which Alexander Stevenson on my Facebook said, yeah, that's probably a V death. Well, that most likely is probably true. But I can't really say that. You can't make correlation equals causation, but you absolutely have a right to say that. Because now there's no reason for me to say, well, you can't say this, you can't say that, because in all reality, everything's a factor unless they're an open system. And so yes, any kind of, she was up just in the tub and then she came out of it. So any kind of therapy out there is going to be a contributory factor to anyone's demise. Any therapy, I don't care what it is. That's why I'm telling the holistic people, get out. Because when you're massaging someone and they have a freaking clot and you release that clot in this environment, guess what? That person's gone. Maybe the next day they're like, oh, sorry. And you didn't realize that you had a hand in it. Literally, you had a hand in it. And so, the world's changed. The world has fucking changed. And I got to speak to Audrey yesterday, and yeah, I'm happy that I'm able to acknowledge both John Oakes and Audrey Stewart. And I'm not saying that all of you guys weren't instrumental in all of this. But John Oakes definitely had my brain fucking going. I will tell you, John Oakes was probably the one that really got this stuff moving, where we're bantering back and forth about everything around Greek mythology, Greek history, about the number system, the universe, 0, 1, 2, and 3, the Trinity, every single thing that we were exploring and I was going through and I had all over my fucking wall, okay? He was somehow part of it, okay? And then Audrey, last fucking second, and also her testimonies and whatever, but the last second, the fucking Hydra. And so both of you guys were so fucking instrumental. And then of course, all of you guys sharing your testimonies and sharing your support and your sharing and all that. And I appreciate that. I can't write everybody in there, but there's two people that really wanted to make sure that they had some kind of written acknowledgement in this, because you were instrumental in this. You were fucking instrumental in this. Okay? And, you know, and I even was able to repair whatever relationship with Christina Morris. Remember, I was like, freaking religion, this, religion, that. I can't deal with the religion. You know where I was at with that. You know where I was at with that, because I'm like, I'm not dealing with any kind of false religion and science. But that's discrimination. Can you separate the person from their religion? Can you separate the person from their politics? Can you separate the person from their belief system? Absolutely. They are not there ever. They also are a beautiful person. Doesn't mean you agree with everything they do. I mean, as long as they're not breaking the law. But they're still a beautiful person. No matter how it manifests and gets filtered through whatever their positive religion science, they're still beautiful people as long as they're respecting you and you find something unique about them. Whether it's just like they like Star Trek, or they like, you know, I don't know, chicken, or they like whatever. You know, there's something that you got from that person. Whatever it is, there's a spark in there that you've really glommed onto. So that's the thing. You know, the people that were on my Facebook that I know that were interacting with me, they're looking for me, or I was looking for them, there was a spark in them that I liked, whatever it was. There was data that I liked about them. There was something that I remember or felt like there was some kind of connection or a benefit. Absolutely, Christina. Okay? And so it's I'm telling you, I went through layers and layers, like every single personality type that came out. That was like my dog. Every single personality type she's coming out. Her pacing, whatever, her going to the tub, drinking water, all that stuff. I mean, she still eats, she still poops, she still pees. I mean, the environment's kind of crazy, and she's still releasing those little the programming that's inside of her, that what used to be distributed and given her shape of being a pit bull and her personality, it's in this environment is now being released in this environment. And she is still fine. Okay, but there are some animals that weigh like next to nothing. They're like little tiny poodles, or they're little tiny chihuahuas. And so even though they have a system, the environment can be so extremely dynamic that if they're already in like what you call hospice, it's hard to pull them out of that. It's hard to transition them from one old world to a new world when there really isn't much left to them at all. And just like taking someone from hospice, even in a slower frequency, that guy from hospice dying with pineapple juice, you know what pineapple juice does, right? It stops the body from releasing. It's a cough suppressant. And so maybe he was coughing and he should have been coughing, but he didn't want to cough, right? And so he's taking out a pineapple juice. It suppresses the cough. The things inside of him that were supposed to be released were then allowed to stay in the body and then cannibalize him. But could you tell that to somebody out there who is so used to the medical holistic system in one world, and then realize that now when you're at the end of your line, you can't afford to suppress any of your mechanisms. You can't afford to keep the old programming because a body is literally dying to evolve. You can't tell people this. And so then what am I saying? I'm saying, here's another lifestyle belief system that is based in science. It's called thermodynamics. And instead of a closed system, such as the laws of thermodynamics in this world, how about an open system? I don't want to go back to a single cell amoeba. I don't want my dog to go back to a single cell amoeba. Yes, immortality exists, so to speak, in the spiritual sense, but you're still going back to a single cell amoeba looking for another colony to go and join and fight to find a way to assimilate. No different than when a person out there is looking for a group to assimilate to. And then they don't fit in and they get cast out. Or they take themselves out because if they were staying there, they would get cannibalized and destroyed by the crowd. It's all science. And so if you've taken yourself out of the fucking game, consider yourself the strongest fucking one out there, because those that still want to play the game, they're still moving around in their groups. And the groups are all into the group think, into like, oh, I can't feel pain. And so they're all reinforce each other and they'll annihilate each other. But that's not for you to go and save. I'm writing this when I'm getting flack from everybody and their mother. I'm like, why am I putting myself through this fucking hell, Jillian? Why am I doing this? Who in their right mind would put themselves through something like basic training, right? Who in their mind would put themselves through something like this? Because I realized I had something even 6 years ago, that when I saw that I could control my own weight, and then I can release the anxiety, release all the things that were torturing me. And it was still a long way to go back in 2016. But when I realized I had something, then it was that fight to then figure out, what is it do I have? And then me discovering that, oh, maybe you can actually live indefinitely. Well, really undefined life, because in this world, you have a defined life. You're either a doctor, teacher, lawyer, binary, non-binary, some kind of sexual orientation. You're, a mother, a sister, a brother, a cousin, a wife, whatever. So we're all living a defined life, and people are stuck in that. And it could be in politics, religion, and science, but who cares? It's a defined life, and if it makes you happy, it makes you happy. But now this is the whole world with the JJ world, is the undefined life. It is an open system with an undefined life that I'm willing to take in whatever's out there, and I will be tolerant to it. Literally, I will be physically tolerant and intellectually tolerant. And ultimately, in my opinion, I don't know for sure because I don't have the fucking manual of what's going on. That's what they are gearing towards, is that, yeah, there is my lifestyle that's peaceful, that's tolerant. But there's other lifestyles that might be different, and say, okay, you don't need to be, tolerant, but you need to, stop doing whatever you're doing. But, you're allowed to live too within the confines of the law. And yes, there are definitely so many different sexual orientations out there, and there are laws that are around them. And so to say anything against, anyone's sexual orientation or lifestyle or belief system is now not okay. It is against the law to discriminate. And absolutely, I agree. And also, when you discriminate against any type of way of being, whatever it is, I don't care, and you have an issue around it, and you can't separate the person from their belief system, then yeah, you shouldn't at all. Well, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but then you are taking on that intolerance. Okay, because I think any kind of system out there, I don't care what it is, as long as it's giving people choices and it's not hurting somebody, and people are actually giving themselves a choice to do this, and that, it's fine. I don't care if this president does this, or if this vice president does that. I don't care if this community is supposed to be more masculine, or this community is supposed to be more feminine, and there should be that whole binary stuff. I don't care if that exists over here, and I don't care if that non-binary exists over here, and I don't care if someone wants to have a big nose and big ears and crazy looking whatever, and they like trees and they carry around a tree with them all over because that's their wife or their husband. Hey, that's fucking awesome. That was what fascinated me about the world, was how diverse it was. that you could biologically have somebody actually be attracted to a tree or something like that. Now, I don't care what you do in the bedroom. I don't need to know, okay? But hey, if this is your companion and this is what makes you happy, then I'm not going to take away your happiness. If you choose to pass away because of whatever, then that's, and if you know about whatever, or if not even you choose, if that's what happens, is that you pass away at some point. And that's it. It's not up to me to save you and say, okay, you can't like that tree. You have to live indefinitely. You have to open your system. You have to feel the pain and suffer. No, that's not for me to actually do. What's for me is to enjoy that person, whoever they are, in whatever life form, in whatever lifespan, and whatever belief system. Enjoy who they are and just, enjoy them. And that's a freedom like no other, because I've actually had to introduce another lifestyle. And when you have to introduce another lifestyle, then you understand what the system is going on. When you're introducing another way to be, holy crap, that's how then you develop tolerance, is when you can introduce a new way to be. If you can't introduce a new way to be, then you'll be with whatever you are. And anyone that conflicts with that, well, they're bad, wrong, or they need to be diagnosed. And yeah, the Kinsey Institute and all the different academics out there, especially back, back in the 70s and the 80s, when they finally took away certain lifestyles out of the DSM, they went through some hell. Oh, I fucking understand now. Oh, I get it. I lived through the 1970s. In the last 2 years, okay? And so me coming from the 1970s, I'm born in 74, but being raised in the 80s and being raised around that type of political unrest and biological unrest, because, yeah, a lot of different diseases were coming out at the time, and sexual orientation and everything else, that was already embedded in me. And so, yeah, I have that Hydra, that experience that. Did it get unburied in the last? Well, I mean, we all have some form of whatever we ever were raised with, and it was buried deep down inside through all the colony forming units in our body. And as you release the demons, you'll start remembering things and be like, oh yeah, okay, I remember this. Lately now when I sleep, I don't dream about anything. Like last night I went to bed around 11, completely exhausted, and I'm reading through, having my computer talk to me, reading my book, and I'm just like, oh my God. My brain is fried. And I'm, my dog is doing whatever she's doing, and I'm, and I'm making sure, and people are like, I'm talking to my FBI about stupid shit and whatever, and it's just like, it's just, everything has come to a head the last couple days. And of course, because the frequencies are freaking insane. The frequencies are insane. So everyone's Hydra is like out there in the open, just screaming everything under the sun. And then here I am I'm typing feverish, like on Saturday night when things were going crazy, I was like, my eyes are like fluttering and going crazy, and I'm actually half asleep because I'm so freaking tired, and I'm still typing. So all that I typed, those 40 pages that I was typing in a freaking trance, it scaled down to 6 pages. Because I'm looking going like, I can't put this in the book. This is insane. It's like reading, Stephen King, who has so many words in it. So many words, so many descriptions. Stephen King's great. It's scary stuff. But I'm not trying to write a Stephen King novel here. It was going to look like that because it was word salad, as my critics would call it. And so I had to get to the point. I mean, I would say it's perfect or imperfect, but it's getting narrowed down to the point that, yeah, there is open systems and closed systems. And I got to touch upon really lightly this concept, that concept, without going down the rabbit hole trying to explain to you the concepts, because you can go and do the research. If you don't know what Hydra are, then go do the research. I mean, I'm not going to be putting so much illustrations in there to no, you can Google Hydra. You can Google the allegorical side of Hydra. You can Google the biological side of Hydra. You can even Google the political side of Hydra, the octopus, the Illuminati, right? I mean, the Hydra is all over the freaking place. And so whatever you're filtering my information through, go Google it through your communities. And then if you're open, then you'll understand what Hydra are biologically. If you're open, you'll understand what Hydra are politically. And so, yeah, I do say something about the Illuminati. I don't say that everything that they're a Hydra, but I mean, you can kind of see, we've seen pictures of of the Illuminati stuff, and they show it's the octopus, the arms of the Hydra, the arms of the octopus, right? We've seen all that allegory in the last 20 years of this fourth turning. And so I just wanted to tell you that, yes, I am now nearing the end of this, writing this book. It's been a fucking battle, 2 years with the COVID. Okay, it has been a battle, and I'm tired as hell. I feel like I've been through, an intellectual boot camp, an emotional intellectual boot camp. Okay, so there's boot camps for physical. Absolutely, I've been through that. I know all of that tearing down and building up, and and I came out an aggressive person, even more aggressive. Okay, and so this COVID-19 era of the frequencies, think about it, Delta, Omicron, they're frequencies. Okay, that is another intellectual, biological boot camp, and we're undergoing it right now. And so all I can say is the whole point of this book is to introduce another lifestyle, another belief system. It's called open system. Immortality is really just, it's whatever. It's an undefined life, indefinite life. Because an asteroid can come in and annihilate one area, and there's no more immortality. No, we just get scattered. We just get fragmented. We don't die, because Hydra cannot be created or destroyed, only converted. So any kind of, large energy source will just fragment you. And then you have to go start over again. And so Masa, I'm going to give, to Masa, she wrote something on her wall about that, immortality, it's not like immortality doesn't exist, but your meat suit is what that gets recycled back in the universe, and your soul floats around, but then what are you going to do? You start over again. When you have one single cell amoeba that has so much data, a DNA pack, and it's floating around like you see the orbs in the plasmic world, if you actually look carefully enough, that's what you're essentially saying that you want to go back to, as a single cell amoeba, when you believe that people should die and reproduce. And I'm saying there is another way to be. Give me the tolerance, give me the allowance to live my lifestyle and believe what I want without people wondering if I'm part of the DSM or should be part of the DSM. Have a good day. Bye.